Hey guys, this is Caleb with DSLR Video Shooter, and today we're talking about the 5-year-old C100 and if it still has a place in today's market with cameras like the GH5. The C100 came out in 2012, which makes it around 5 years old. And it's still for sale. You can pick it up at B&H for $2,500 or around $2,000 or less on eBay as a used camera. And it is a legendary camera. At one time, you saw these literally everywhere. I've used one for years and years here in the studio for these videos. And recently I was playing with it and trying to figure out if it still has a place in today's market and if there are people who should consider one of these for their main shooting camera, especially considering for around the same cost you can get a GH5 with the XLR adapter on top, which makes it a pretty tough call. Now there are definitely some downsides to this camera. It doesn't shoot 4K, which is a big one. It's much larger than most cameras in that small GH5 range, and you're not going to have as much flexibility with internal 4K, 10-bit, 422, all this kind of stuff. But there are some major bonuses to this. So first I want to talk about who I don't think this is for. If you're comfortable with a smaller sensor like Micro Four Thirds and 4K is a must, then obviously this is not your camera. Also, if you need really small systems when it comes to your camera system, obviously this is pretty bulky. You can obviously remove the top handle to slim things up, but the body itself is pretty large, and you're going to have to deal with that. But it still is a fantastic option, in my opinion, for people who really want to stick with the Canon system but don't have a lot of capital to spend. So if you love the way Canon skin tones look, you love the larger sensor sizes, you can't see yourself using Micro Four Thirds, and you're okay with not having 4K, then this could be a fantastic option. And another thing to consider is this is a 4K sensor recording 1080. So you get very similar results to this camera if you shot on a GH4 and downscale that to 1080, which a lot of us still do a lot. So if you're not publishing in 4K, you're still getting the benefit of a 4K sensor downscaled to 1080. There's also some other amazing features with this camera, and it really is the shooter's dream, especially when it came out and even still today. The biggest thing I notice when I use this is literally this setup you see here with a lens is all you need, period. We have excellent XLR preamps on the top handle here. We have a top handle. You don't have to purchase any cages or anything to rig this up. And we have built-in ND, which is something that is definitely missing from smaller cameras. So you can go out in the sunlight on a super bright day, flip on some ND and you're good. Go back inside, turn it off, and it's amazing that you don't need any filters with this camera system. This camera also has legendary battery life. So with one battery, you're easily set for the day. And I really love that about this camera. So with 2 batteries, you're completely done. No worries about power. Also, you're only powering with 1 battery. So on a lot of other systems, you need multiple batteries for multiple devices, and it gets really gnarly really fast. So the GH5 has great battery life, but it's definitely not, anywhere near the level of the C100 battery system. You're also getting dual pixel AF if you buy the camera that has that upgrade or buy the upgrade on its own. A lot of the used cameras you can pick up, you can check to make sure that it has dual AF, and that will perform very, very well, especially since a lot of Panasonic stuff isn't quite there when it comes to autofocus for video. And then finally, you're getting a lot of great pro features on this camera, including waveforms, several different exposure tools, and a ton of audio tools. So if you really want to dial in your audio, you have so much more control on this camera in the menus and with the attachment than you will on most other DSLRs and mirrorless cameras. And even though this camera is large, it's pretty lightweight. So if you take that handle off, you're not dealing with that much more weight than something like a 5D. It's very easy to handle. You've got this, speaking of handles, a removable handle and a removable top handle. So you can really pare this down to a nice small brain, if you will, and you'll be good to go. And of course, things like the dual SD card slot and the full HDMI, which both are on the GH5. The other thing I've always loved about this camera is it has a very efficient codec. So if you want great looking videos, 4K to downscale to 1080, but you don't want to have massive files, this is a great option. You're not getting files that are that much larger than what you'll get off of a DSLR. But if you pick up a GH5, you're going to have huge files compared to this camera that you're going to have to manage. So where does all this leave us with the C100? Again, I think if you're a Canon person, this is the system for you. If you're a documentary shooter or you just want one system that you're done with, you don't have to use any filters, you pull this out of a bag, you put an SD card in it, and you're done. Then this would be obviously a great option. Otherwise, if you really need that 4K for your final distribution and something a little smaller, the GH5 with this XLR system on top is a pretty great way to go. So there you have it, a 5-year-old camera that still holds its own depending on the user. Hopefully you guys have enjoyed this video. I'd love to hear your thoughts as well. I don't think this camera is for everyone, but these days with the lower price, it is a fantastic option for those looking to move up from something like a 70D to something with a lot more flexibility. So that's gonna do it for this video, guys. As always, you can watch fresh new content here at DSLR Video Shooter every single week. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.